Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Amidst the grief and devastation over the loss of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, it immediately became clear to Democrats and progressives and liberals and the entire broad majority coalition in this country, the center-left anti-Trump coalition, that there was going to be this enormous fight over her potential replacement. The stakes are as high as possible, and the question has been, well, okay, what is the plan? And at first, the big focus was on trying to peel off the 4 Republican senators that would be needed to block a nominee. And there were some encouraging initial signs, both Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski and Maine Senator Susan Collins saying they did not want to vote on a Trump nominee this late in the game. But it became clear in the following days that most of the imperiled Republican senators seeking re-election, people that you would think under conditions would be subject to this pressure, Arizona's Martha McSally and Colorado's Cory Gardner and North Carolina's Thom Tillis, that all of them were not willing to break with their party, right? And that's been the way they are throughout. We'll all hang together, surely we'll all hang separately. And then there were the old-time senators, the sort of eminence greases. Maybe they'll be institutionalists in this setting, retiring Lamar Alexander from Tennessee, or Iowa's Chuck Grassley, who said back in 2018 he would not take up a nominee in this fashion. But, of course, that was a lie, and they, too, fell in line. And then the last hope was that Utah's Mitt Romney, who was, of course, notably the one bipartisan vote for impeachment to remove the president from office, would break with the president. But no, Senator Romney signaling today he will support a vote on Trump's pick. So Republicans probably do have the votes to do this. There is no magic trick, right? No procedural thing you can do as Democrats to stop them. I mean, you can delay, you can make it difficult, and obviously they should do that. But the real question becomes what to do about this, if in fact they have the votes, which they appear to have. What is the plan? Because if they are willing to pay any price for this seat, because it is so valuable to them, then the only option left is to make the price as high as possible. And that means you focus on what Donald Trump's nominee on the court can mean. Very concretely, the loss of health care coverage for millions of Americans. The loss of the right to an abortion and reproductive freedom for women, the loss of clean air and water for everyone, the striking down of climate legislation. That's all on the table. You make those issues stick to the Republicans who are responsible for putting that person on the court. What you do not do, and I strongly believe this, is focus on the actual nominee. Remember, back in 2016, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell simply refused to hold hearings for President Obama's pick, Merrick Garland, whose credentials were sterling and kind of unassailable. He was seen as a compromised pick. He was 64 years old. He had a moderate record. And it was a very deft call by Mitch McConnell to basically say, well, he seems like a perfectly nice man, perfectly good judge, but we are not voting on him because the American people should decide.
President Obama and his allies may now try to pretend this disagreement is about a person. The decision the Senate announced weeks ago remains about a principle and not a person.
I mean, it wasn't about a principle, as we've seen. It was about power. We can stop this, and we will. Democrats don't have the power right now to stop it, but they should take the same approach. It is not about the actual nominee. It is about what Donald Trump and his party are trying to do to the country through this appointment. So boycott the hearings. Boycott the process, the same way Republicans did with Merrick Garland. Just say, we know who their judges are, right? They've got a checklist. We know what they stand for. It's not about them. Republicans already know whoever Trump picks is going to check the boxes they want checked. There's an incredibly intense vetting process to make sure that is the case. That is why South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, chair of the Judiciary Committee, can openly say this before there's even a nominee.
We've got the votes to confirm Justice Ginsburg's replacement before the election. We're going to move forward in the committee. We're going to report the nomination out of the committee to the floor of the United States Senate so we can vote before the election.
There is no nominee. Lindsey Graham says we have the votes. We will confirm this person as yet named. You're not going to convince these Republicans to change their minds. So all you can do is make them pay. Democrats and everyone else has to remind people what these vulnerable Senate Republicans up for re-election could be responsible for. For instance, the Supreme Court will hear oral arguments for a case aimed at utterly obliterating Obamacare on November 10th, just a week after the election, which that's when the Supreme Court scheduled it to keep the temperature down. If this new justice helps strike down the Affordable Care Act, then 133 million Americans with pre-existing conditions are no longer protected. Insurance companies can charge them whatever they want or keep them away from coverage altogether. 21 million people could suddenly lose their health insurance. 12 million folks on Medicaid right now. The Medicaid expansion, thrown out the window. 800,000 people with opioid addictions could lose their treatment. And this case is going to be heard a week after the election. And if they rule on this next spring, it would still be in the midst of a pandemic that's already killed 200,000 people and sickened 7 million. So Democrats need to be very clear about the corrupt bargain the Republicans are making.